The Grand Terran Embassy in Geneva had never looked so alive. Flags of a dozen alien worlds shimmered above its glass dome. Silver ships rested outside the atmosphere, glimmering like stars in daylight. News cameras lined the streets. Everyone on Earth knew this summit was history in the making. For the first time, the Rithari Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, had agreed to speak with humans directly. Their envoy was not just anyone. She was Lady Tevara, a high diplomat whose voice could shape the fate of planets. Humans waited with excitement and pride, but also with nerves. Compared to other species, Earth was still young, barely a century into space travel. Many wondered if the Rithari would even take them seriously. The great doors opened, and Lady Tevara entered. She was tall, far taller than any human in the Eber room. Her skin shimmered like pearl with faint silver tones, and her robes trailed behind her like liquid silk. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, as if she carried the light of distant suns. Every step was careful, graceful, and full of pride. Whispers spread instantly. The alien diplomat looked less like a visitor and more like a queen. She raised her chin, scanning the chamber with a faint smile. A smile that was not warm but sharp, like a blade hidden in silk. When she reached the center of the hall, her voice carried without need of microphones. "People of Earth," she said smoothly, "we honor your efforts. You rise from your small blue world and now seek a place among the stars. May today's talk show whether you are ready to be heard." It was polite. It was formal. Yet in every syllable one could hear her hidden meaning. You are children among giants. At the long negotiation table, human delegates exchanged uneasy glances. The head of the human side, Ambassador Holt, smiled carefully. "We are honored to welcome the Rithari. Humanity looks forward to peaceful cooperation." Beside Holt sat Lieutenant Sarah Morgan. She was young, barely in her 30s, her dark hair tied back in a simple knot. Unlike the glittering alien robes, Sarah wore a plain Earth uniform, blue and white, nothing special. She was here mostly as an assistant to take notes and to learn. But Sarah was curious. Her eyes never left Lady Tevara. She studied the alien's posture, the sharpness of her gaze, the way she moved as though the room itself belonged to her. Sarah felt both amazed and slightly annoyed. The negotiations began. Other alien diplomats joined, voices filling the room with promises of trade, peace, and treaties. The humans presented their plans for cooperation, shared research, cultural exchanges, and defensive alliances. At first, Lady Tevara listened, but soon her patience began to show cracks. When Ambassador Holt spoke of human progress in medicine, Tevara leaned back and whispered to another alien envoy, her golden eyes glinting. The whisper was quiet, but Sarah caught the faint smile. It was the smile of someone hearing a child brag about building a sandcastle. Then it happened. Ambassador Holt nodded toward Sarah. "Lieutenant Morgan has prepared a detailed analysis on energy cooperation. She can explain further." But before Sarah could even stand, Lady Tevara raised one elegant hand. "That will not be necessary," the alien diplomat said smoothly. "We prefer to hear from your senior voices, not from assistants." The room went silent. Sarah froze halfway, out of her chair. Her cheeks warmed, but she forced herself to sit back down quietly. Ambassador Holt frowned but continued the discussion, skipping over Sarah as requested. The Rithari diplomat's words hung in the air like cold smoke. Some of the other alien envoys smirked, others hid their expressions. They had seen this before. The proud Rithari always tested new species, measuring their worth. Sarah bit her lip but kept calm. She wrote notes, eyes down, though her heart pounded. She had spent weeks preparing that report, and Tevara had dismissed her without even hearing a word. Hours passed. Each time Sarah moved as if to speak, Tevara made a small gesture, sometimes a slight shake of the head, sometimes simply turning her chair away. She never raised her voice, never lost her graceful smile, but the meaning was clear. Humans may sit at this table, But not all humans are worthy to speak. By the end of the first session, Sarah felt frustrated but also determined. She glanced around the chamber. Many envoys avoided her gaze, not wanting to be caught laughing. But Sarah saw something else too. Curiosity. A few alien observers watched her closely, as if waiting to see whether the human would break or endure. That night, in her small embassy quarters, Sarah replayed the events in her mind. Tevara's words stung, but more than that, they revealed something. The alien had not even considered her a threat. She had dismissed her the way one might dismiss a shadow. Sarah stared at her datapad, at the notes she had taken. If she won't listen now, Sarah whispered to herself, then I'll make her listen later. Outside her window, the alien ships still floated above the city like stars out of place. The world buzzed with excitement, but for Sarah, the summit had already turned personal. Lady Tevara believed humans were small, unimportant, but Sarah knew something the alien did not. Humans had a habit of proving people wrong, and sometimes it only took one stubborn person to change the course of history. The next morning, the Grand Terran Embassy buzzed with even more energy than the day before. The news of Lady Tevara's sharp dismissal of Lieutenant Sarah Morgan had spread quickly among the humans. Some were impressed by the alien's confidence, while others quietly whispered about her arrogance. Inside the negotiation hall, the atmosphere was tense. Delegates from dozens of planets were present, their shapes, colors, and forms a constant reminder of how diverse the galaxy truly was. Yet all eyes often drifted to the Rithari diplomat. Lady Tevara sat at the head of the table like a statue carved from moonlight. She exuded power without trying, a presence that seemed to bend the room around her. Sarah entered the room carrying a datapad filled with carefully prepared information on trade routes, energy technology, and interstellar regulations. Her fingers tightened around the device. She had planned to speak today, even if briefly, to demonstrate humanity's growing capabilities. But she knew she would face the same dismissal as yesterday. The session began with formal greetings and technical discussions. Tevara listened, but always with a faint air of disdain. When Ambassador Holt tried to redirect attention toward Earth's achievements, Tevara raised her hand in a subtle, dismissive wave. "You will hear only from senior delegates," she said again, her tone polite yet carrying unmistakable authority. "We have little time for minor voices." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. She sat down quietly, trying to suppress the frustration that burned inside her. Around the table, some of the other alien envoys exchanged knowing glances. Many of them had seen similar human pride in the past. Tevara's dismissal was a test, a challenge, but Sarah was not easily deterred. She leaned back, observing the diplomat carefully. Tevara's movements were graceful but predictable. She gestured subtly to indicate boredom, shifted her weight from one side to another when impatient, and always held her eyes on the person speaking rather than the content itself. Hours passed in discussion, trade negotiations, and debates about security alliances. Each time Sarah opened her mouth to add information, Tevara subtly blocked her. One time she turned her chair slightly, letting the human notice that her words would go unheard. Another time, she leaned forward to whisper something to another Rithari delegate, as if Sarah's presence did not exist. Still, Sarah did not leave. She listened, learned, and took meticulous notes. She noticed patterns in Tevara's speech, the diplomat's preferences, and the subtle ways she influenced other envoys. Each observation was a small victory. Even ignored, Sarah was gathering tools for the next time she would be allowed to act. At midday, a brief break was called. Delegates wandered into the sunlit corridors of the embassy, sipping alien beverages that shimmered with colors Sarah had never seen before. Tevara did not move. She remained seated at the head of the hall, attended by aides who hovered like shadows. Sarah walked past, pretending not to notice the alien's watchful eyes. Yet she knew Tevara was observing her every step. The diplomat's interest was faint but unmistakable. Perhaps she saw in Sarah what no one else did, a small, determined human refusing to vanish from the scene. The next session resumed with more tension. Trade agreements, interstellar law, and energy resource discussions filled the room. Each time Sarah tried to interject with clarifications or corrections, Tevara's hand rose, her eyes flashing golden with quiet command. "You will wait your turn," she said once, her voice soft yet cutting. The words carried authority, but also a subtle amusement. It was as if she saw Sarah's attempts to speak as adorable, like a child trying to climb a tree far taller than them. Sarah swallowed her words but remained resolute. She was learning patience, she was learning observation, and most importantly, she was learning that humans often thrived when underestimated. During a heated moment, the discussion turned to energy treaties. Several alien delegates argued over control of resources in nearby star systems. They spoke in technical terms in languages that Sarah barely understood, but she noticed the patterns. Tevara's judgments were always guided by protocol, not creativity. Her solutions were elegant but rigid. Sarah realized something crucial. This was her chance. If she could comb human flexibility with Tevara's protocol, she might find. The following morning, the Grand Terran Embassy was alive with the sound of footsteps, chatter, and distant humming of alien ships. The summit was entering its most delicate phase. Humans, still underestimated by most alien delegates, had prepared their proposals carefully. Lieutenant Sarah Morgan had spent the night reviewing every detail, ensuring no mistake could be used against them. Lady Tevara, however, seemed unfazed. She floated through the corridors with the same grace as the Ibai, previous day, her golden eyes scanning everything like a hawk. She smiled faintly at the humans, but it was a smile that conveyed amusement rather than warmth. The session began in the Grand Negotiation Hall, a massive room filled with holographic displays, delicate alien instruments, and floating lights that adjusted to the mood of the discussion. Delegates took their seats. Tevara's presence seemed to pull all attention toward her. She leaned forward elegantly, listening while pretending to ignore the humans completely. Hours of careful negotiation passed without incident. Humans were being pushed aside, dismissed politely but firmly. Sarah, though frustrated, observed every move, every pattern, every subtle gesture that Tevara made. She could anticipate the diplomat's reactions before they happened. And then, chaos arrived. A sudden alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. Delegates froze. The embassy's internal security system had detected unauthorized entry. Within moments, automated doors slammed shut, and warning holograms projected in every corner of the hall. From the observation deck, several small ships had breached the outer security perimeter. They were moving with unusual speed and precision, clearly attempting to disrupt the summit. Panic rippled through the delegates, but Tevara remained composed, though her eyes sharpened. "Everyone remain calm," she said, her voice cutting through the alarm. Her tone commanded obedience, and most delegates followed, though the humans looked around nervously. Sarah, however, felt a strange thrill. She had always believed humans rose to challenges when they were underestimated, and now there was no one around to dismiss her abilities. The situation demanded action. The chaos in the hall grew. Holographic displays flickered and panels fell from the ceiling. Tevara moved toward the emergency exit with the elegance of a predator, but the corridor was narrow and cluttered with debris from the sudden disturbances. She stepped gracefully, but her long robes snagged on a fallen railing. Sarah had been following carefully, trying to assist where she could without attracting attention. As Tevara moved, the diplomat lost her balance. In one fluid, almost cinematic motion, she slipped. It all happened in a fraction of a second. Tevara's fall was controlled yet dramatic, a mix of precision and accident. Unfortunately, the nearest person in her path was Sarah. She had been crouched down to secure some equipment and could not move fast enough. The collision was sudden. Tevara's elegant frame landed directly on Sarah, pinning her to the ground. For a moment, silence filled the hall. Delegates froze in shock. Some gasped, others covered their mouths to hide laughter. The proud Rithari diplomat, the symbol of elegance and superiority, was literally sitting on a human. Sarah, under the unexpected weight, could only blink. Painful, but manageable, She tried to remain composed. Her mind raced. This is absurd, but also an opportunity. Tevara, however, was not amused. Her golden eyes widened in horror and fury. "Remove yourself," she hissed, her voice sharp, though restrained. The words carried the weight of command, but the situation made them almost comical. Sarah, holding the datapad in one hand, spoke carefully. "Ma'am, I think you're, well, on me." Her voice was calm, trying to hide a grin. A ripple of laughter passed through the assembly hall. Even the other alien delegates were trying not to laugh openly. Tevara's pride was monumental, yet here she was, trapped in an undeniably embarrassing position. The Rithari diplomat attempted to shift her weight, but the narrowness of the corridor and the debris prevented a smooth motion. Each adjustment made the situation worse, and Sarah could feel the faint pressure of the diplomat's robes brushing against her uniform. Finally, Tevara sighed sharply and allowed herself to be lifted slightly by her aides. Sarah, still pinned, took the chance to quickly stabilize the fallen equipment. She spoke with careful precision. "It's safe now, ma'am. We can move you carefully to a secure area." The diplomat's pride burned, but she allowed it. No words could fully express her fury, humiliation, or surprise. She had dismissed humans as weak, and yet here she was, completely dependent on one for a simple rescue. As the aides guided Tevara away, Sarah rose to her feet. Her uniform was dusty, but her composure remained intact. She straightened her posture, looking around the hall, meeting the eyes of delegates from other species. Many of them now regarded humans with a hint of respect. Some even whispered that the young lieutenant had courage and presence of mind. Tevara, once removed from the human's position, composed herself instantly. She smoothed her robes, adjusted her posture, and raised her golden eyes to Sarah. For the first time, they were not dismissive. There was curiosity, maybe even grudging respect, hidden behind the diplomatic mask. "Lieutenant Morgan," she said, her tone controlled but carrying a quiet edge. "That was unexpected." Sarah nodded, carefully neutral. Sometimes, unexpected things happen in negotiations. Tevara's lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. The other delegates noticed it, and it sparked a silent acknowledgement that humans were not as fragile as they appeared. By the end of the day, the summit continued under tighter security, but the atmosphere had shifted. Sarah's actions, though accidental in some ways, had demonstrated calm under pressure, quick thinking, and reliability. The humans were no longer mere spectators. They had proven they could act in moments of crisis. And for Tevara, the moment lingered in her mind. She had underestimated humans, thought them weak, and assumed she could maintain absolute control. The diplomat who had dismissed a human now knew firsthand that appearances could be deceiving. Sarah, on the other hand, returned to her quarters quietly. She allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The galaxy often overlooked humans, ignored them, and doubted them. But the events of today had reminded her of one truth. Humans had a way of turning unexpected circumstances into advantage, and sometimes even a fall could become a turning point in history. The Grand Terran Embassy was quieter than usual the next morning, though the tension in the air was unmistakable. News of the previous day's incident, Lady Tevara accidentally sitting on Lieutenant Sarah Morgan, had spread quickly among the delegates. Even the media could not resist subtle whispers of amusement. The diplomat herself was flawless, as always. Her robes were perfectly arranged, her hair immaculate, and her golden eyes carried the same controlled intensity. But there was a new subtle shift. A flicker of curiosity, almost hidden, crossed her face whenever she glanced at Sarah. Sarah entered the hall holding her datapad tightly. She had spent the night preparing for today, reviewing notes, protocols, and the complex treaty issues at hand. But unlike previous days, she sensed that something had changed. Tevara's previous dismissal now carried a weight of awareness. She had witnessed human resourcefulness firsthand. The session began with formal greetings. Delegates murmured quietly as they took their seats. Tevara, seated at the head of the table, gestured for the humans to join her in the discussion more directly than before. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. This was unexpected. "Lieutenant Morgan," Tevara said, her voice calm but commanding, "I believe you will assist me in understanding your species' proposals. I expect precision and efficiency." Sarah nodded, careful not to betray any pride. "Of course, ma'am." For Tevara, this was a test. The diplomat was used to commanding respect through fear or prestige. She had underestimated humans before, assuming their reactions would be predictable. Now, she had no choice but to observe them closely, learning whether they were as capable as they claimed to be. The first challenge came quickly. Negotiations regarding interstellar energy allocations had reached a deadlock. Several alien delegates argued over control of nearby star systems, and their rigid adherence to protocol stalled progress. Tevara leaned back, observing quietly. Her golden eyes flicked to Sarah. "Explain your approach," she commanded. Sarah took a deep breath. She outlined a compromise method combining Earth's flexible negotiation tactics with strict Rythary protocols. She explained step by step how each action would meet the legal requirements of the other species, while allowing trade and energy sharing to continue efficiently. At first, Tevara's expression remained unreadable. She listened, but there was no visible reaction. The other delegates leaned in curiously, noticing that the proud Rythary diplomat, who had dismissed humans outright, was now actively considering a suggestion from a young human. Finally, Tevara spoke. "Interesting. Your approach considers efficiency and compliance simultaneously. I did not anticipate such insight from one so junior." Sarah remained calm, careful not to respond with arrogance. "Sometimes, ma'am, solutions appear in unexpected places," she said simply. The session continued. Tevara, still formally distant, now relied on Sarah to clarify technical points, explain human capabilities, and propose practical solutions to obstacles. Each time Sarah spoke, the alien diplomat observed keenly. "Adjust." The next day, the summit began under a cloud of tension. Though earlier incidents had shifted Tevara's perception of humans, the galaxy was far from peaceful. Intelligence reports indicated that a group of anti-diplomatic insurgents was still attempting to disrupt the negotiations, this time with more aggressive tactics. The Grand Terran Embassy's vast halls, normally quiet with diplomacy, now hummed with alert signals. Security drones hovered near every entrance. Delegates whispered strategies while technicians monitored ship movements in orbit. The Rythari diplomat, Lady Tevara, remained poised and composed, though her golden eyes reflected alertness and a hint of calculation. Sarah Morgan, now officially acting as Tevara's human liaison, walked beside her, datapad in hand. The weight of responsibility rested heavily on her shoulders, but she remained calm. She knew that humans were underestimated, and that this moment would test every skill they had cultivated. The first sign of trouble came suddenly. A fleet of small, fast ships breached the embassy's outer defense perimeter. They fired warning blasts, signaling their intent to disrupt the summit. Panic swept through the alien delegates, some retreating, others hiding behind floating shields. Tevara's golden eyes snapped to Sarah. "Your species' suggestions?" she asked crisply. Sarah scanned the tactical displays, her mind racing. "We can't fight them head-on," she said. "Their speed and numbers give them the advantage. But we can create a diversion, guide them into the corridor system, and then trap them using automated defense grids." The diplomat studied her carefully. "Explain." Sarah outlined the plan step by step. She combined human improvisation with Rythari protocol, ensuring that every move followed embassy regulations while exploiting the attacker's predictable behavior. Her suggestions included careful timing, coordination between species security teams, and minimal use of weaponry to prevent unnecessary damage. Tevara's eyes narrowed. "You are daring," she said, almost reluctantly admiring the plan. Most would have frozen. "Proceed." Within minutes, humans and Rithari security forces coordinated under Sarah's direction. She moved through the embassy like a conductor, guiding an orchestra, issuing instructions calmly, anticipating threats and adapting on the fly. Delegates who had once dismissed her watched in astonishment as her presence kept chaos under control. The insurgent ships entered the corridor network as planned. Automated defense grids activated precisely as Sarah predicted, blocking escape routes and isolating the attackers. Security drones intercepted intruders, while humans and other species provided strategic guidance to ensure no collateral damage. In the control room, Tevara observed every move. She was impressed. The humans were not only fast thinkers but also cooperative, integrating seamlessly with the Rithari procedures. She felt a rare emotion, pride, though unspoken, for the species she had once dismissed. At one point, a particularly fast ship broke through the initial defense line, aiming directly for the negotiation hall. Without hesitation, Sarah signaled a team to intercept. Using a combination of gravity manipulation fields and rapid repositioning drones, they slowed the vessel, redirecting it safely into a containment area. The move was precise, calculated, and nearly flawless. By midday, the attackers were neutralized. The fleet, realizing they had underestimated Earth's defenses, retreated. The embassy was intact, the delegates unharmed, and the summit's integrity preserved. Tevara turned to Sarah, her golden eyes glowing with a mixture of surprise and respect. "Your species," she said slowly, "possesses courage, ingenuity,
and adaptability. I misjudged you." Sarah gave a small, polite nod. "We often find solutions where others see only obstacles," she said. "That's how humans survive."
The Rithari diplomat allowed herself a faint, almost imperceptible smile. She had underestimated not only Sarah, but the human's ability to act under pressure. The species she had once considered weak had just demonstrated the very qualities that allowed civilizations to survive and thrive in the galaxy. After the immediate threat passed, the summit resumed. The other delegates now looked at humans with new eyes. Whispers of admiration circulated quietly. Humans could act decisively, think strategically, and improvise brilliantly under pressure. No longer were they merely observers. They were contributors, partners, and problem solvers. Tevara, still proud and commanding, relied on Sarah for subtle guidance throughout the remainder of the day. Whether navigating protocol, clarifying technical points, or advising on negotiation strategies, Sarah's presence proved invaluable. By evening, the human team gathered in a quiet corner of the embassy. Faces were flushed with adrenaline and relief. The summit had survived one of the most dangerous disruptions in recent history. Sarah, though tired, felt a sense of accomplishment. She had not only managed chaos, but had also changed perceptions of humans on a galactic scale. Tevara entered the room quietly, her robes flowing elegantly. She stopped before Sarah, her golden eyes locking with the lieutenant's. "You have done well today," she said, her voice calm, but carrying authority. "Your species proves capable in ways I had not anticipated. I will admit it is impressive." Sarah nodded, careful to maintain respect. "Thank you, ma'am. Humans learn quickly and act decisively when necessary." Tevara regarded her silently for a moment, then inclined her head. It was the closest thing to approval the Rithari diplomat would ever offer. To the humans present, the gesture was significant. Even the most rigid alien species could recognize talent and courage when it emerged. Later, as the sun set over Geneva, the Grand Terran embassy shimmered under alien and human lights. The galaxy had watched, learned, and adapted. Humans had not only survived but had shown that they were formidable in unexpected ways. Sarah, standing near the observation deck, gazed at the ships in orbit. She thought of how far humans had come, and how much potential they carried. Today had proven one important lesson. When underestimated, humans could turn disadvantage into opportunity, danger into achievement, and dismissal into triumph. And for Lady Tevara, the proud diplomat who had once ignored her, the lesson was equally clear. Humans were not weak. They were resilient, creative, and remarkably resourceful. Underestimation was a mistake the galaxy would not soon forget. The Grand Terran Embassy buzzed with activity, though a sense of calm had returned. The insurgent threat had been neutralized, and the summit resumed with cautious optimism. Across the galaxy, news of the humans' decisive actions had spread quickly. Delegates, reporters, and observers were all aware that Earth had proven itself in ways few had expected. Lady Tevara, the proud Rithari diplomat, sat at the head of the negotiation table. Her robes shimmered as always, her posture flawless, and her golden eyes carried the weight of authority. Yet there was a subtle change in her demeanor, a recognition of humans' value, quietly acknowledged but unmistakable to those paying attention. Lieutenant Sarah Morgan stood nearby, ready to assist. She had become more than an assistant. She was a trusted advisor in the ongoing talks. Her calm composure and sharp intelligence had earned her the respect of many delegates, even those who had once doubted her species. The final day of the summit began with speeches, proposals, and careful negotiations. Humans, guided by Sarah's advice, contributed thoughtfully. They offered compromises, technological insights, and practical solutions that bridged gaps between alien protocols and human flexibility. Tevara observed quietly, her gaze frequently shifting to Sarah. Every suggestion, every calculated move by the humans, reinforced the diplomat's growing respect. What had begun as dismissal had evolved into acknowledgement, then cautious trust, and now a sense of genuine admiration. Midway through the session, a delicate issue arose. A dispute over interstellar resource allocation in a newly discovered star system. Several alien delegates argued passionately, each defending their species' interests. The debate grew tense, with voices rising and negotiations threatening to stall. Sarah, understanding the nuances, stepped forward with a clear, simple proposal. She suggested a rotation system that balanced access fairly, combined with a shared monitoring program that used both human and alien technology. Her approach addressed technical concerns while maintaining diplomatic fairness. Tevara listened, her golden eyes fixed on Sarah. For a moment, the room was silent. Then the Rithari diplomat spoke, her voice calm yet resonant. "Lieutenant Morgan's proposal is sound," Tevara announced. "It satisfies protocol, ensures fairness, and considers long-term consequences. I see now that the humans' methods, though different, are effective." A murmur of approval spread through the room. Delegates nodded, some whispering about the young human who had so elegantly solved a complex problem. Sarah, standing respectfully, allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The summit continued smoothly after that. Humans contributed with confidence, demonstrating problem-solving, diplomacy, and ingenuity. Tevara, though still regal and proud, relied on Sarah's insights at key moments, ensuring that negotiations advanced efficiently. As the final agreements were prepared, the delegates signed treaties, exchanged diplomatic gestures, and issued public statements celebrating interstellar cooperation. Humans, once dismissed and underestimated, were now recognized as capable and reliable partners. In a private moment, Tevara approached Sarah. Her golden eyes were steady,